Y'all remember when CM Punk left the WWE in 2014? Well, Seth Rollins had some pretty ignorant things to say about that, looking like Vince McMahon's puppet. Now seriously people, I like Seth Rollins, I love Seth Rollins, we all do. So far he didn't say anything negative about that Pepsi tattoo, so he didn't cross the line, but I gotta be honest man, during this Chris Van Vliet interview, he kinda came across as this puppet on Vince McMahon's shoulder. Nice boy. So we're gonna talk about that. We also know the numbers for Raw's Netflix episode. Man, AEW people were excited. People thought it's actually 600,000 and the celebration was on. It's crazy how short that party was though. Man, these people fascinate me. We also have news on The Rock versus Cody Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Becky Lynch, SmackDown. People, welcome back to Greatness of Wrestling. How are you guys doing today? So, Chris Van Vliet had an interview with Seth Rollins. Very good interview, and for the most part, like, I do agree with things Seth Rollins is saying. He's a nice dude, but I find it really ignorant and weird, considering it's real. Maybe it's, kayfabe, but I think he talked out of character. So he basically said a lot of things about CM Punk. And Seth Rollins was actually right about one thing. When CM Punk left the WWE, he started ignoring his friends. If you work for the WWE, he wouldn't respond to your texts, and I heard that from Chris Jericho. I've heard that from quite a few wrestlers. Not personally, they don't talk to me. I only talk to voices in my head. They counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. That is a very douchey-ass thing to do. So, I agree with Seth Rollins on this one. I remember CM Punk's explanation was always that he didn't want anything to do with the WWE. Kinda makes sense? Not really though. But Seth Rollins was very critical of CM Punk leaving the WWE, trashing the company, leaving all the wrestlers behind, having the you money basically, and wrestlers like Seth Rollins didn't have that type of money, they couldn't follow him. He said CM Punk was cancer to pro wrestling, it was selfish to leave. Seth Rollins is actually doing this quite a lot. I respect his respect and love for the WWE, but sometimes he crosses that line and comes across as a bootlicker because he completely ignored the context. He talked about him leaving and saying these terrible things about the WWE, but he didn't acknowledge the reason he left the WWE. Well, first of all, he was fired, obviously that line needs a bit more context, but you get the idea. CM Punk left because of health issues, because of the way his boss treated him. I remember in one interview CM Punk said, a lot of these people had Vince McMahon like a father figure. Maybe Seth Rollins is one of them. And I remember Punk saying, I don't need that, I have my own dad. So Rollins keeps shooting on Punk because he left the WWE, and he acts like WWE were this family that Vince McMahon always, used to tell people, but in reality, Vince McMahon never really cared about them. He was just a boss. The relationship between Vince McMahon and wrestlers were actually always one-sided. What about the fact that CM Punk got fired on his wedding day? I think he had all the right in the world to talk shit about the company. As much as I love Seth Rollins, man, this is some bootlicking behavior, completely ignoring the fact that he left because he was overworking in the WWE. The way he did it, I may not agree with it. Maybe you don't as well. I'm just saying, if you're going to talk shit, you need to put in a little bit more context. He kept saying, well, he had a bunch of money, he could just dip and go, and we couldn't, we were struggling. I'm sorry, people, but I failed to see Seth Rollins' point in this one. He also complimented Drew McIntyre, he was happy for him, he deserved it, but then kinda criticized Cody, very slightly of course, but in a sense that he was kind of feeling like Cody didn't earn that WrestleMania moment yet. And again, I failed to see how he didn't earn that opportunity. He did the exact same thing Drew McIntyre did. He left the WWE. Well, Drew McIntyre got fired, but he left the WWE, got over, became one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. I'm sorry, but that's how pro wrestling works, really. And people, I want you to realize this is not some Seth Rollins hate video. I like the dude. The interview was great. Chris Van Vliet is, just one of a kind. I just feel like taking it so personally, CM Punk leaving the WWE, when you're not even an official in the WWE, you're just a wrestler who also works for the company, I find that a little weird. Now, of course, I do agree with the criticism, he stopped talking to his friends and shit, like, that's a bit too much. I agree. At the end of the day, none of us know the situation fully. I also feel like if you're such a company guy and you always talk about how you want so much better for the WWE, getting angry at CM Punk returning, and obviously it being such a big success, it doesn't add up to me. People, let's talk about The Rock. First of all, I want to address him breaking kayfabe kind. A lot of people are saying, well, he needed to. His kids were watching the show. Look, this is the dumbest shit I've heard in my entire life. The Rock was out of character. This was Dwayne Johnson. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal. None of it is, people. None of it is just entertainment. But to me, it's like, how do I put this? If I'm watching Harry Potter, right? I'm in this magic world. I don't want in the middle of the movie a green screen appearing. You know, breaking that facade. I don't want in Breaking Bad, you know, Jesse telling Walter, "Why are you not cooking?" And he's like, "No, I'm just Bryan Cranston, the actor today." You know, in one of the episodes. And look, people, my problem wasn't necessarily The Rock returning as a babyface for this night only, perhaps, or him even turning babyface in general. I think it was just such a big plot hole, not only to talk to Cody in the first place, like he didn't even need to do that. Why even do this shit? Like, it didn't add anything to the show, but also record a bunch of videos of him hugging Cody and drinking tequila together. I just felt like it was so unnecessary, and wrestling is built on that shit. Like, wrestling is built on suspending your disbelief, so I don't care what you do in interviews or podcasts or even press conferences, but when I'm watching the show, I would like to imagine that, you know, what we're seeing is supposed to be kinda real. Like we're watching an episode of a TV show. According to Wrestling Observer Radio's Dave Meltzer, the idea of doing a match between The Rock and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41 is dead. So that's probably might be the reason why The Rock did that. Again, wasn't necessary, but he just probably dipped to record a bunch of jungle movies. Oh, he loves the jungle movies. The Rock making a movie? Must be in a jungle. It's kind of wild because, I mean, this rivalry was viral. So many views, so much excitement built. And I was right about that shit. This is something I told you like 2 months ago. I hate the fact that WWE rely on The Rock so much when they don't even know if he's actually going to appear on these shows. He's not committed to the WWE. He doesn't need to be committed, but I hate the fact that WWE are gambling with that idea. Maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. Do I need, personally, that match at WrestleMania? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'm fine with Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. I just hate when we're doing shit with no plan whatsoever. Raw on Netflix was a big success, though. It pulled a total of 4.9 million viewers globally. I really want to talk about this. So basically, there was this false report of WWE Raw on Netflix doing like over 600,000, which is... yeah, I guessed it, less than AEW. Less than It was a party, people. People were popping the champagne, enjoying penetration, you know, doing everything they could to celebrate. Well, apparently the report was false, and it was more like 600,000 viewers on a specific TV or something along those lines. Believing that rumor was absolutely wild in the first place, but it was so funny just to... It's funny when people are taking this shit so seriously. Why do you want either company to fail? It adds nothing to your life. Absolutely nothing. It's wild. Hogan was booed on Monday Night Raw, one of the most cringy moments I've ever seen, and people are misunderstanding my statement. I'm not saying I felt sorry for Hogan and oh my god, how could you? It felt... how do I put this? Imagine being yourself in this situation, talking about Randy Savage, ooh yeah, Jack, and Hulkamaniacs. These fans are why I'm here. And the same fans are booing the shit out of you. It was just so... you know? After a rough reception Hulk Hogan got in Los Angeles on Raw's Netflix premiere, WrestleVote said on Backstage Pass Q&A that going forward, WWE will use Hulk Hogan for things like pre-taped commercials and documentary interviews, but as far as live appearances, you may not see him as often. For this part, Fightful heard, Hogan was surprised and disappointed he got booed, but brushed it off. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know the reason why he got booed. Hogan does. Hogan knows the reason. You know, Jack, the crowd reception didn't actually surprise me. Honestly, I'm the fans on this one, brother. The fans had to wait 2 hours for me to appear. That's the reason, people. He needed to open the pay-per-view. People got bored. People got tired. Don't know how accurate this is, but I've also heard reports that he might be turning heel. Obviously, he ain't gonna wrestle. And I don't give a shit, right? Come on. If... let's say, hypothetically, if it's gonna happen, like, it's happening, right? Like, we're gonna make the best out of a bad situation. I think him and Logan Paul would be a pretty cool duo. Nuclear heat, people. Nuclear heat. We all know Goldberg announced a retirement match. Goldberg will be on the January 27th episode of Raw, says Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer. So, are you excited? A lot of people are shitting on this, but to me it's like, It's a one-time deal. He's not winning the Why are you so mad about this? It's gonna be an attraction match. Shitty-ass match. I thought about this, you know. It's probably gonna be Gunter versus Goldberg. I kinda hope it's actually Goldberg versus Braun Breaker. I want Braun Breaker to beat the shit out of Goldberg. It's a bit of a more marquee match in my opinion. We all thought we're going to see Becky Lynch on Raw, but that didn't happen. Bodyslam.net claims Becky Lynch was originally set to return following the Rhea Ripley title win over Liv Morgan on Raw this week, but that was changed to Undertaker appearing. So I don't mind that. I don't mind that because people don't seem to realize what this episode was all about. It was not your regular episode of Monday Night Raw, it was a one-off. It was a one-off, so knowing that, expecting that, I like the show. I know that next week's Raw and the week after that is going to be a lot different. It's going to be a regular episode of Monday Night Raw where you progress these stories, we actually build talent, we actually have our world champion on the show. This was just a one-off to show sponsors, look at us. Look at us, this is wrestling. Don't you want to put your ads on here? Meanwhile, WrestleWood's radio heard that Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair's names now appear on WWE's internal active roster. Lynch will return to the Raw roster and Flair will remain on SmackDown. So that is absolutely amazing because now we have so many championships. So we could use both of these talent to either build the United States and Intercontinental Championships or put them in the main event because obviously people miss these talents, so it's not gonna be that big of a deal. And I always feel like oh my god, the old timers doing this and getting, I think that's a bit overused. I don't think it's that big of a deal a lot of times, not always. So I think we could either put them in the main event or mid-card. If we put them in the main event, now we have a lot more women to actually fight for the mid-card championships, making these championships a bit more prestigious. Lastly, I want to talk about SmackDown. WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston posted that SmackDown is planned to return to a 2-hour format beginning in June. So, you know, I was always critical of this, but here's the thing. This was the first ever episode of SmackDown being 3 hours, and obviously it was decent. But I don't know if they can actually keep up, you know. I don't know if they can keep up. The positives being we can get more WWE Mid-Card Championship matches, whether male or female. Matches being longer, which is always great. But at the end of the day, it can also get repetitive and way too long. And if you don't have a good show written, you're just gonna be watching a bunch of filler shit. Like some of these SmackDown episodes are absolute filler. We all know that. And now it's gonna be just a longer filler. Most movies aren't 3 hours long. That's such a good thing about WWE being on Netflix. They can actually change it up. Sometimes it can be 3 hours when it's needed, and when it doesn't need that time, it can be 2 hours. You know, that's what I love about WWE being on Netflix, and hopefully in the future SmackDown will follow that path too. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, people. Appreciate that. The great one, peace, love, and hugs. It's been a pleasure.